Guys, I love Sweden. I love the weather. I love the air, right? I think the people are decent, right? Right. I love going there, taking photos of the buildings and like seeing the sights, bro. I love the winter time. I just like Sweden. I like Sweden a lot, bro. So when I see this title, it kind of concerns me. Like, what do you mean? Is there something going on in Sweden? What are you talking about? Even though I haven't been to Sweden in maybe 12 years. Right? Favorite cities would probably be Lund, Kalmar, Gothenburg, guys, Helsingborg, of course Stockholm, right? But like, I love Sweden. I love it. If you haven't been, go immediately. Well, I guess how about this? Wait for the end of this video, and then I'll tell you if I'm still going to suggest it, guys. Make sure you guys go ahead and get the meatballs and lingonberries, guys. Go ahead and do that there. It's solid. Swedish meatballs. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Let's get off of food. Let's go ahead and do this, guys. Let's see what this takes us.
Denmark is one of the safest countries in the world, but these last months were remarkable.
I like Denmark too, though.
On July 24th, there was a shooting.
Like Denmark generally is there was a what? Hold on. Denmark is normally like the layover spot when I'm trying to get to Spain from America, right? So I generally lay over in Copenhagen for like a day on purpose so I can walk around the city. All right, but let's get
Denmark is one of the safest countries in the world, but these last months were remarkable. On July 24th, there was a shooting in central Copenhagen, and a 16-year-old boy from Sweden was arrested. A week later, another person was shot, and again, the suspect was a teenager from Sweden. These kids are often recruited on Telegram with messages like these, which offer $48,000 for a job in Denmark. The next day in Copenhagen, there was an explosion. The day after, there was a double shooting. This was the third incident with Swedish criminals in 1 week.
Guys,
Regeringen
I'm sorry?
ser på problemet med allra största allvar.
The police set up security zones where they could stop and search people without probable cause.
Okay.
Copenhagen lies just a bridge away from Sweden,
right,
where gang-related crime has been spiraling out of control. This is blamed on the poor integration of immigrants.
Sverige ska bli bra igen.
This led in 2022 to the first right-wing government to be elected since the 1930s. Sweden and Denmark in recent years were polar opposites with regards to immigration policy.
Right.
Denmark was unusually strict and wanted to do the bare minimum, whereas Sweden had some of Europe's most generous asylum policies. But Sweden's new right-wing government is taking a U-turn, and they're looking at Denmark for inspiration.
Vi ligger i praktiken 10-15 år efter Danmark.
While Denmark is tightening its border security. This is how Sweden's gang violence is spreading to Denmark with hindsight.
And oh guys, sorry guys. The name of the channel this video was coming from is called Hindsight. Alright, and this is a suggestion via Discord, guys, if I did not tell you that.
So if you, like me, are a small business owner, here's a short message from today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is a software that makes the management of your business so much easier. It works with apps. If you need help with accounting, CRM, timesheets, inventory, or whatever you can imagine, Odoo has an app to make it easier. Odoo is offering the first application 100% for free. And then if you want to have 2 or more applications, you change to the paid plan. So let me show you how the website application works. They ask a couple of questions about your goals, your color palette, and about which pages you want. And then you can select your theme. Their site builder is super intuitive and easy. You simply drag and drop blocks and then customize them in the sidebar if necessary. And this includes unlimited hosting and support. So if you think that this could be for you, click on the link in the pinned comment or in the description to claim your first application for free.
All right,
now,
guys, go ahead and,
back to the video. The Swedish welfare state is world famous.
Yeah,
Sweden's quality of life, public health, and educational performance rank amongst the best in the world. They have relatively high equality rates and low poverty rates, and they consistently rank amongst the happiest people on earth.
And it's crazy because they have crazy taxes. But I mean, see, this is where I wouldn't actually mind the concept of high taxes, right? I wouldn't mind it because they actually get things in return for it, right? I mean, we don't do that in the United States of America. We get nothing for our taxes. Specifically, if you are above the age of 18 and under 65, bro, you get nothing for your taxes. Okay? Not really. But all right.
At the height of the migrant crisis in 2015, Swedes showed incredible compassion and opened their country.
Right.
This led the number of asylum seekers to increase substantially in the mid-2010s, but that's where it went wrong. They disproportionately ended up in poor neighborhoods, where over the years, parallel societies emerged.
Okay.
First and second generation immigrants are now 9 times more dependent on government welfare.
Jesus Christ. And why is this? Because of the individuals that came there, right? They did not assimilate to the culture. They didn't care. They thought that they could go here and live like they were in the country before that they came from, right? Similar to the United States of America, what's happening here, right? Individuals come here and they refuse to assimilate. Absolutely refuse.
And almost
Like, bro, you're leaving the country. Think about this here. You're leaving your country because something went wrong, okay? So shouldn't that tell you that you can't come to another place and then you say, you know what, I'm going to maintain my culture 100%. Your culture is the reason why you ran, is it not? That's the reason why you left. You left because of the failures of, I don't understand. I don't understand.
half of them is unemployed. Immigrants are often segregated in poor communities. In the most extreme cases, like the Stockholm suburb Rinkeby, nearly 90% of the population has an immigration background. This led to social exclusion and in turn to gang formation.
Wow.
As gun violence was going down in other parts of the EU, in Sweden, it was going up. Stockholm now has roughly 30 times more gun violence than London, and Sweden has the highest gun crime death rate per capita in the EU. Sweden had been incredibly generous with its asylum laws, but they failed to integrate new arrivals. Denmark was the opposite, and they saw Sweden as a cautionary tale. In 2017, in Rinkeby, the police arrested a man on suspicion of dealing drugs. After which, 20 to 30 masked men gathered near the site and clashed with the police. The rioting lasted for 4 hours and several cars were set on fire. This was big news in Denmark, and the following year they passed the so-called ghetto laws, aiming to rid Denmark of ghettos by 2030. These laws were condemned in the international media because they targeted non-Western immigrants and forced them to integrate.
Bro, you left your culture because it didn't work. All right? How about this? You left your country because it didn't work. Okay? So maybe you need to look deeper. Right? You cannot bring a society that did not successfully, let's say, be able to hold you there, let's say. Right? Should be very cautious with the words here, right? You cannot bring a failed, right, to a place that's not failing. You're running specifically for a reason. Leave that back there and assimilate. That's how it should work, if that makes any sense, right? Because, like, guys, again, I live half the year in Spain. That is not my culture, but yet I fit into theirs. I didn't bring mine, right? You get what I'm saying here? But, okay.
It became mandatory to put children in daycare for 25 hours per week, or you would risk losing your welfare payments. And sentences for crimes in these ghettos were automatically doubled.
Eksplosioner rystede København. Fremmedkrigere. Bandeopgør.
The current prime minister took office around that time and then continued these trends. Denmark became the first European country to start deporting Syrian refugees, and she outlawed donations from Qatar and Saudi Arabia to mosques in Denmark. Sweden's officials criticized Denmark, but public opinion in Sweden also was beginning to shift.
Imagine, guys, because that's what's going on in like New York and Chicago. Think about this here. These are states that generally are, for the most part, considered sanctuary cities, right? Like they don't care about the concept of migrants. They don't care about the immigration. They don't care about none of these things because they're so far from the border. They don't care, right? But obviously all the border states are screaming at the rest of the United States of America like, hey, do you guys not see this? No, they don't see it. They're too far away, like really far away. The distance between Texas and New York is gigantic. Okay, so these individuals are basically insulated from the southern border, so they're like, oh, well, we're to call ourselves sanctuary cities and not basically care. So until they got affected by it, and now you start to see gigantic shifts in Chicago, along with New York City, saying maybe we need to get all of these politicians out of here. So whoever said this was okay, that you guys need to leave. Okay, so now you start to see a lot of like side switching. So does it surprise me that Sweden is taking a drastic turn in like politics? No, how? Of course it is. Of course it's going to happen like that. It has to, right? You guys were blind, completely blind. Completely blind.
Till er som nyligen ansluter det till livesändningen så är det flertalet bilar som brinner, troligen 8-9 stycken som brinner.
In late 2018, 89 cars were set on fire in 11 different locations in southern Sweden. The following night, 5 more were torched.
Why?
In April 2022, a Danish politician announced his plans to visit Sweden to hold public Quran burnings. Riots broke out throughout the country. These events intensified discussions about the challenges of multiculturalism, free speech, and immigration policies, and it led to a once fringe party to gather support.
So the thing about it is multiculturalism can in fact work, but I think the cultures have to somewhat be aligned, right? Like they can't be that drastically different. And there are some cultures that are crazy different. Like right now we're suffering through an issue in Springfield, Ohio, from the country of Haiti, and literally the most American of American town on the planet, in America at least, right? Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, the cultures are way too drastically different. All right. Now, if these individuals went to like Florida or South Florida, that would have not been the case. But no, they went to the heartland of the United States of America. So yeah, there's an issue there.
Sverige ska bli bra igen. Och ska Sverige bli bra igen, då behövs det någonting nytt.
A spokesman of the Sweden Democrats posted a tweet with the image of a metro on their party's colors. And the text reads, "Welcome aboard the Repatriation Express. Next up, Kabul."
And you have these people running in your government speaking like that. That's a crazy one, guys. I'm just gonna let you guys know. That's a wild one. I'm not sure that could happen in the States.
Welcome aboard the Repatriation Express. Next up, Kabul. The Sweden Democrats had always been isolated by other parties because of their fascist roots, but they claim to have distanced themselves from this past. One of their catchphrases was to make Sweden great again. This rhetoric worked. And in the 2022 elections, they won a remarkable 20% of the votes. The Sweden Democrats were now the largest party in a right-wing coalition.
Vår situation är så katastrofal att vi måste göra mycket mer än andra länder i vår omvärld.
And they announced sweeping plans.
Begränsade rättigheter i asylprocessen.
They announced to cut benefits and to streamline deportation.
Regeringen lägger om migrationspolitiken. Det är tuffa och svåra beslut, men helt nödvändigt.
Their goal was to make Sweden an unattractive destination for refugees and to follow in Denmark's footsteps.
Och då måste man göra det med desto större kraft och beslutsamhet, och det tycker jag att ni visar vägen, så det uppskattar jag verkligen.
Some of their plans were even tougher. The proposed snitch law would force public sector workers like doctors and teachers to report any contact with undocumented people, which could lead to them being deported. Sweden also started investigating their own ghetto laws. They wanted to put a 50% cap of non-Nordic citizens in ghettos.
But is this integration or discrimination, or both?
And they're offering financial rewards for immigrants wanting to leave the country. Critics argue that these policies are completely missing the point.
Guys, this is what like some parts in the south of Spain looks like. Just like this. In the Costa del Sol region, like they're like cardboard cities.
That the real causes of crime are poverty, racism, and social exclusion, and that this was only going to make it worse. During their first full year in office, the number of asylum seekers went down to the lowest point since 1997. And for the first time in 50 years, Sweden had net migration, mostly due to foreign-born residents from Iraq, Somalia, and Syria who decided to leave the country. But crime levels are still unaffected. The number
because they're there now. They're not going to leave.
Of shootings last year was about the same as during previous years. And so far, 2024 has a similar number of shootings as the previous year in the same month. In fact, last year in September, Sweden had a record number of monthly fatal shootings. It started with the murder of a 58-year-old woman in Uppsala, who turned out to be the mother of one of Sweden's gang leaders. The police suspected that his former partner commissioned the attack, and the two gangs have been at war ever since. The leaders of these gangs live in Iraq, Lebanon, and Turkey, and they use apps like Signal and Telegram to recruit freelance criminals. An apple emoji means throwing a grenade, a water pistol, murder. Combating the number of asylum seekers is one thing, but rooting out crime is much more complex. Sweden also adopted the Danish security zones, which allows the police to perform searches of people and cars without the suspicion of a crime. A month after it came into effect, in Norrköping, 2 men were executed in an apartment building. The police suspected that this was linked to organized crime and decided to establish a security zone. It lasted for 2 weeks as required by law, and 368 people and 41 cars were searched. The second security zone was established only a week later near Stockholm. But here's the problem. The day after it ended, a hand grenade was thrown into a shop. The next day, there was another gang-related shooting. These security zones are hardly effective at addressing the root cause of the problem. There is a lot of work to be done and a lot of policy to debate, but in the meantime, criminal organizations are expanding their business to Denmark and even to Finland and Norway. This toxic environment is partly blamed on the poor integration of migrant communities, but that's just one of the many underlying societal issues that Sweden needs to address if it wants to get this escalating violence under control.
Okay. All right, guys, here's my problem. Guys, I love that region of Earth, right? I enjoy going there pretty much regularly, guys. I love Europe. Europe is great, right? But I do notice, depending on where we are in Europe, the people don't try to fit in, right? Luckily, when I walk around some of these countries, I always look like a tourist, kind of on purpose. Like I never want to look like I live there under any circumstance. Even in Spain, that's kind of what I do. I look like a tourist, right? And the thing is, guys, you can definitely tell there are some people who they've never been outside their country. Like the first time they've been outside their country was when they were making an attempt to immigrate to another country. And the downside to that is that not everyone also has the ability to understand that this is not your country, right? Like you're here, sure, you're here now. You have to assimilate to the culture you're in. You have to, under all circumstances. That's rule number one, right? I mean, you cannot expect other people to adhere, right? So for example, in Spain, I prefer to speak English, right? But under no circumstance am I going to get angry if someone does not speak English. That's, they speak Spanish. They speak Spanish. So you have to then, in return, speak Spanish. You're in another country. You're not in the same, where you are is not a another town in your country. Okay, that's not how that works. But I think there are a lot of these individuals who are coming to any countries, right? Like, so, for example, even someone in Sweden, from Sweden, would have to come to the United States of America and understand our culture, right, and live within it, right? 'Cause if they don't, then they will stand out. Do you see what I'm saying here, right? Then most likely be ostracized. So just, you have to assimilate. That sounds crazy. That sounds terrible, I'm sure. But you have to assimilate when you go to another country. Like, even for individuals that travel the world, okay? Whenever you go to another country, you're visiting their country, don't get angry when they don't have the things you're used to, all right? Or the culture is different, or people like standing closer than they normally do in the United States of America. Imagine, okay? I'm not used to people touching me in the States, but in certain countries, it's not uncommon for someone to literally be standing behind you and touching you, right? Like, really, like, unnaturally close, okay? It's a thing, apparently. But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm probably going to stay away from this region for a while until, I guess, some of that clears up, guys. Because, again, I used to love this area. I love Helsinki. Finland in general is great. I was actually looking to purchase a house in Finland for a while. Bro, I don't understand. Guys, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.